Nikon says this ultra-wide zoom delivers the superior optical performance that only S-line lenses can offer, all in a compact package. But does it live up to the hype? In this video, I'm reviewing the Nikon Z 14-30mm f4S. It's part of my ongoing look at Nikon's Z-mount zooms, and this time we are going ultra-wide. The 14-30mm f4 was the second S-line zoom lens after the 24-70mm f4. The other two f4 zooms I've reviewed, the 24-70 f4 and the 24-120 f4, delivered impressive performance. But this one is an ultra-wide, and that's a category that's historically been much harder to get right. Still, Nikon has positioned it as part of the S-line, which is supposed to represent their top-tier quality. So let's see how it performs. I'd like to thank Wolfgang, one of our readers, who kindly loaned this lens for a couple of months for test and review purposes. You can find this review as a written blog post on our blog site, where you'll find detailed test charts on sharpness and other characteristics. Most of the sample images in high resolution are available on a separate site. I leave links to the blog post and the sample images in the description below. I tested this lens on a 46-megapixel Nikon Z7 Mark II. Sample images were taken with a Nikon ZF. Here are the specifications of this lens. You can pause the video to take a closer look or check out our blog post for a more detailed overview. Handling and build quality. The Nikon Z 14-30mm f4S, like its standard zoom sibling, the 24-70mm f4S, is a relatively small minimalist lens made mostly of durable hard plastic. The mount plate is of metal though. This keeps the weight down to just 485 grams, slightly lighter than the 24-70mm f4, making it easy to carry. Despite the lightweight design, the build feels solid and tight, with no noticeable play or wobble. For travel, this lens features a retractable locking mechanism which requires rotating the zoom ring past 14mm to lock. This helps reduce its size, making it easier to fit in a bag. However, the lens cannot be used for shooting while locked. Here is a size comparison with the Z24-70mm f4S. The telescopic zoom mechanism extends to its maximum length as you unlock it to 14mm position, and collapses a little to a smaller length as you zoom into 30mm. The front element does not rotate when zooming in or out, not even when focusing, thanks to its internal focusing system, a useful feature when using filters. There is just one button on the lens which controls autofocus, turning it on or off. The zoom ring is fairly large while the focus ring is very thin. The focus ring can be customized to control manual focus, aperture exposure compensation, and ISO sensitivity, or it can be disabled altogether. When set to aperture control, it operates clicklessly, allowing for smooth adjustments. The autofocus speed is very fast and virtually noiseless. The silent AF would especially be appreciated by videographers. In addition to the standard front and rear caps, the box includes a shallow lens hood and a carrying pouch. There is no image stabilization built into this lens. Optical features. With 4 ED glass elements, 4 aspherical elements, nanocrystal coat, and a fluorine-coated front element, expectations are high for sharpness, low aberrations, and strong flare resistance. Let's check it out. For the infinity sharpness test, we look at 3 areas of the image: center, midframe, and corner. This is a sharp lens, especially at its widest focal lengths. It performs best at 14mm, which is also the most important focal length in an ultra-wide angle zoom within this range. Center sharpness is outstanding, ranging from excellent to even phenomenal between f4 and f5.6. Corner sharpness remains good to very good, with the weakest performance occurring at 30mm and f22, where it still achieves a solid good rating. You can shoot at f16 with very good results, while 22 is the weakest aperture, though still capable of producing decent images. Generally, optimal performance is achieved between f5.6 and f8. However, if you're aiming for the sharpest corners at 30mm focal length, f11 is the best choice. Close-up sharpness. This lens delivers strong performance at all focal lengths, even at close-up distances. The floating lens elements work wonders in this regard. However, you may want to avoid using f22 unless absolutely necessary, as it's the weakest aperture due to diffraction. Nonetheless, if your application requires it, you can still achieve decently sharp images at f22. Lens distortion. Since Nikon Z cameras don't allow you to disable distortion correction, distortion is automatically fixed in camera for JPEG images, meaning you will see almost no distortion. Even when shooting RAW, the camera embeds correction data into the files, which Nikon's RAW converter, Lightroom, Photoshop, and many other RAW converters apply automatically, without giving you the option to disable it. So distortion won't be an issue. Here I used Lightroom to convert the RAW files. However, if you use a third-party RAW converter that doesn't automatically apply the profiles and you choose not to enable them, distortion will be visible, especially at 14mm. Vignetting. The Nikon Z 14-30mm f4 exhibits noticeable vignetting at 14mm. Stopping down reduces it, but some moderate vignetting remains even when stopped down. The good news is that vignetting is average at 20mm and minimal at 30mm. At those focal lengths, stopping down farther improves the results. The camera's vignette control was turned off during these tests. Aberrations. There is no longitudinal chromatic aberration visible at any focal length. This is a very good performance. There is no noticeable lateral chromatic aberration at 30mm and 20mm. At the shortest focal lengths, 14 to 16mm, there is a slight and negligible amount which can be ignored in most cases. Flare resistance. Zoom lenses are typically more prone to flare than prime lenses, partly due to their complex optical construction. This includes a higher number of elements and glass-to-air surfaces, along with the challenge of optimizing a design that involves moving components. Additional factors that can increase the likelihood of flare include a wide-angle field of view and a large front element. Since this lens features all of these characteristics, it's reasonable to temper expectations regarding flare performance. Nikon R-Neo and nanocrystal coatings, along with a fluorine-coated front element, do an excellent job of minimizing flare. These coatings help produce clean, contrasty images, even when shooting directly into the sun, making me positively surprised. Of course, with enough effort, any lens can be made to look bad in this regard. While this lens handles flare well under typical shooting conditions with the sun in the frame, it's still possible to encounter it in certain situations, mainly at small apertures, but even then, the artifacts are generally not overly distracting or destructive. Coma. The lens delivered excellent results in this section, exhibiting negligible coma at its top. Sun stars. The Z14-30mm f4 can produce relatively nice and distinct sun stars at its smallest apertures. The longer the focal length, the smaller the aperture needed to create distinct sun stars. At 30mm, you'll need to stop down to f22 for well-defined stars, while f16 or f22 works for 20mm. At 14mm, you can already get attractive sun stars at f11 or smaller. Focus breathing. In this category, the Nikon Z 14-30mm f4 performs exceptionally well. It's one of the best corrected lenses for focus breathing, exhibiting virtually none at all. Bokeh. Expecting pleasing bokeh from an ultra-wide-angle lens with a maximum aperture of f4 might be asking a bit much. However, I was pleasantly surprised by the background blur this lens produces, especially at its longer focal length, but even around 20mm if you're close enough to your subject. Bokeh is a highly subjective matter, but to my eye, the blur is impressive for a f4 ultra-wide angle, soft and attractive, with round bokeh highlights. Have a look and see how it appeals to you. Conclusion and sample images. First, things that I like. Across the frame sharpness, distortion in normal settings, vignetting at tele-end, aberrations, both longitudinal and lateral, flare resistance, coma, sun stars, focus breathing, bokeh, size, handling and build quality. Things that are not bad but they are not so good either. Vignetting at mid and wide focal lengths. The price. And there is nothing bad about this lens actually. Just by looking at the like-dislike table, you can probably guess the conclusion. This is a superb ultra-wide-angle lens, and a clear example that not all high-end zooms need to be f2.8. This is a lightweight, compact lens thanks to the use of high-grade plastics in its construction and its retractable design, though some users might not love the retractable mechanism. Optically, it's very sharp with virtually no aberrations or coma, and it handles flare impressively well. The generous zoom range adds versatility, making it a great option for landscapes, cityscapes, and architectural shots. It's even suitable for occasional astrophotography thanks to its excellent coma control. Autofocus is fast and accurate, and the price is also fair for what it offers. As mentioned earlier, this review is also available in written format on our blog, where you will find detailed test charts on sharpness and other characteristics. I've also listed a few alternatives at the end of the article for those interested. Most of the sample images are available in high resolution on a separate site, and you'll find links to both the blog post and sample images in the description below. If you are thinking about buying this lens, you can support our work by using the links in the description. It won't cost you anything extra or affect the price, but it helps us a little. You can also donate to support the channel. A huge thanks for watching. Your comments are always welcome. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Until the next video, have a fantastic time, everyone.